May 29, 1943, RAF Allenbury, England. 7 YB-40 Flying Fortresses of the 92nd Bomb Group's 127th Squadron sat on the hard stands, their crews conducting final pre-flight checks before their first combat mission. These experimental gunships bristling with up to 1650 caliber machine guns represented the Army Air Force's desperate attempt to solve the escort problem that was bleeding the 8th Air Force white over Germany. Instead of providing the solution, they would reveal a fatal flaw in the B-7's design that had been killing American airmen since the first raids into occupied Europe. The problem was deceptively simple, yet catastrophically lethal. 2 waist gunners stood directly opposite each other in the B-17's narrow fuselage, manning flexible 50 caliber machine guns through open windows on each side of the aircraft. In the chaos of combat at 25,000 FT with temperatures plummeting to 60 dirt below zero, wearing bulky sheepskin-lined suits, flak armor weighing 30 lb, and parachute harnesses, these men repeatedly collided with each other while trying to track German fighters attacking from the beam. Oxygen lines disconnected in the melee, leading to hypoxia and death within minutes. Ammunition belts tangled, jamming guns at critical moments. Men died not from German bullets, but from their inability to defend themselves due to fundamentally flawed aircraft design. What followed over the next 18 months would represent one of the most important design evolutions in military aviation history. Through bitter combat experience, systematic analysis of losses, and rapid industrial adaptation, the B-17 would transform from a vulnerable target into the most heavily defended bomber of World War II. The modifications, particularly their evolutionary staggering of waist gun positions, would save thousands of American lives and contribute decisively to achieving air superiority over Nazi Germany. The mathematics of death in early 1943 painted a picture of unsustainable attrition. Statistical analysis by the 8th Air Force's Operational Research Section revealed that the average B-17 survived just 11 combat missions before being destroyed. With crews required to complete 25 missions for a combat tour, the probability of survival stood at a mere 27%. These translated into empty bunks, Inisan huts across East Anglia. Personal effects: boxes shipped home to grieving families in small American towns, and replacement crews arriving from training bases in the United States faster than they could be adequately prepared for combat. The crisis had been building since the 8th Air Force began operations in August 1942. The pre-war doctrine of the self-defending bomber formation developed at the Air Corps Tactical School at Maxwell Field, Alabama, had assumed that masked defensive firepower would make daylight precision bombing viable without fighter escort. This theory, untested in large-scale combat, was proving tragically wrong. German fighter pilots, particularly those flying the Faller Wolf 190 and Messerschmitt Bf 109, had developed tactics that exploited every weakness in the Flying Fortress's defenses. The waist gun positions represented the most glaring vulnerability in the B-7's defensive scheme. Originally designed in the late 1930s and tested only in peacetime conditions, these positions had never been subjected to the sustained combat conditions encountered over Germany. The B-17E and F models carried 2 waist gunners who manned flexible 50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns through open windows measuring approximately 2 ft by 3 ft. The fuselage at this position was barely 10 ft wide, tapering toward the tail. With 2 men standing directly across from each other, each trying to pivot and track fast-moving fighters while wearing bulky equipment, collision was inevitable. The environmental conditions at operational altitude compounded the design problems exponentially. At 25,000 ft, the standard bombing altitude for precision attacks, temperatures routinely dropped to 60 degrees below zero. 200 map slipstream shoaled through the open windows, flash freezing any exposed skin in seconds. Ice formed on gun mechanisms, oxygen regulators, and ammunition feeds. gunners wore silk gloves under wool gloves, under leather gloves under electrically heated mittens, but they still lost fingers to frostbite when forced to clear gun jams with bare hands. Combat reports from early 1943 documented the mounting crisis. During the January 27th raid on Wilhelmshaven, the first American attack on Germany itself, waist gunners reported severe difficulties engaging enemy fighters due to mutual interference. The March 6th attack on the Erkneball-bearing works saw multiple B-17 sunnable to defend against beam attacks because waist gunners had become entangled with each other during violent evasive maneuvers. The YB-40 program had emerged in September 1942 as an interim solution to the escort problem. With long-range fighters like the P-51 Mustang still in development, bomber formations penetrating deep into Germany faced Luftwaffe fighters without protection once their short-range P-47 Thunderbolt escorts turned back at the German border. Lockheed's Vega subsidiary received the contract to convert standard B-17Fs into YB-40 gunships. The modifications were extensive. A second Sperry dorsal turret installed in the former radio compartment, twin gun mounts replacing single-waist guns, a Bendix chin turret added under the nose, and the bomb bay converted to an ammunition magazine carrying 11,000 rounds. Additional armor plating protected crew positions. The first 13 YB-40s arrived at RAF Alsenbury in early May 1943, assigned exclusively to the 92nd Bomb Group's 127th Squadron. Training revealed immediate problems with the enhanced waist positions. Despite doubling the firepower, the twin-mount configuration actually worsened the space problem. During mock combat exercises, gunners repeatedly collided and fouled their equipment. The combat debut on May 29, 1943, targeting the submarine pens at St. Nazaire, France, proved disappointing. 7 YB-40s accompanied 96 standard B-7s on the mission. The gunships struggled to maintain formation with the standard bombers after they dropped their bomb loads. But most critically, combat reports documented severe problems with crew coordination at the waist positions. Post-mission debriefings revealed that waist gunners had been unable to effectively engage German fighters attacking from the beam. June 22, 1943 brought tragedy during the raid on the synthetic rubber plant at Hills, Germany. YB-40 serial number 425735 was destroyed after its waist gunners were unable to provide effective defensive fire due to mutual interference. Investigation revealed this was not an isolated incident, but a systemic failure. The after-action reports reached multiple commands simultaneously. At Wright Field in Dayton, Ohio, the Air Technical Service Command began analyzing the tactical failures. At Boeing's Plant 2 in Seattle, Chief Engineer Edward Curtis Wells assembled a team to address the combat reports. Douglas Aircraft's Modification Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, began experimenting with actual aircraft. Most significantly, the United Airlines Modification Center at Cheyenne, Wyoming, established specifically to implement combat improvements, began systematic testing of alternatives. The solution that emerged was elegantly simple. Stagger the waist gun windows. By moving the left window forward and the right window after, by approximately third, each gunner gained his own operating zone. They could track targets without collision and feed ammunition without interference. The modification required minimal structural change, but promised maximum improvement in combat effectiveness. The first B-7 with experimental staggered waist windows underwent combat testing in early July 1943. Results were immediate and dramatic. Gunners reported significant increases in their ability to track and engage targets. Incidents of equipment interference dropped to 0. But staggering alone didn't solve all problems. Gunners still operated in open windows exposed to the devastating slipstream and cold. The complete solution combined staggered positions with enclosed windows, featuring plexiglass panels, and rotating gun mounts. This Cheyenne configuration transformed the waist positions into functional combat stations. Douglas Aircraft implemented the staggered window modification first on late production B-17F aircraft in August 1943. Boeing immediately incorporated the change into their new B-17G model, with the first production aircraft completed on August 30th. Lockheed Vega quickly followed suit. The B-17G represented more than just improved waist positions. It incorporated every combat lesson learned during the bloody air battles of 1943. The Bendix chin turret provided crucial frontal defense. The tail position was redesigned with larger windows and improved fields of fire. Together, these modifications transformed the Flying Fortress into the most heavily armed bomber of the war. Production statistics revealed the implementation's urgency. Boeing's Seattle plant would produce 680 B-17Gs, Douglas Long Beach built 2,395, Lockheed Vega manufactured 2,250. Every aircraft incorporated the staggered waist window design, along with other combat-driven improvements. Combat reports from autumn 1943 documented the transformation's effectiveness. During the October 8th attack on Bremen and Vegasack, B-17Gs with modified waist positions claimed significantly more fighter kills than older F models still in service. They suffered fewer losses to beam attacks, precisely what the modifications were designed to prevent. October 14, 1943, Black Thursday. The Schweinfurt raid saw 60 B-7s lost out of 291 dispatched, but analysis revealed newer B-17G models suffered proportionally lower losses than older F models. The defensive improvements were proving their worth even in the deadliest air battles. Luftwaffe after-action reports confirmed the American modification's impact. Major Hans Philipp, commanding Jagdgeschwader 1, noted in October 1943 that American bombers had become noticeably more difficult to attack. The waist guns now delivered disciplined and accurate fire with gunners able to track fighters smoothly through their entire attack approach. The Germans were forced to adapt their tactics. They developed the Vera Granit 21 rocket mortar for standoff attacks and created heavily armored Sturback assault fighters specifically designed to attack B-17 formations. The fact that specialized weapons were needed demonstrated the modification's effectiveness. By December 1943, the transformation affected strategic planning. The 8th Air Force could plan deeper. Penetration missions, knowing their bombers, had significantly improved survivability. General Ira Ecker reported to General Henry Arnold that modifications had materially improved their ability to conduct strategic operations. The impact extended beyond hardware. Training curricula at gunnery schools were revised for the new positions. At Kingman Army Airfield in Arizona, instructors noted that staggered positions meant gunners could actually apply deflection shooting techniques effectively. The modifications influenced other aircraft. The B-24 Liberator incorporated similar staggered waist positions in late production models. The B-29 Superfortress, still in development, benefited with remotely controlled turrets that eliminated crew exposure entirely. January 11, 1944, demonstrated cumulative effects. 600 B-7s attacked German aircraft factories. Despite incomplete fighter escort, losses remained manageable. The majority were older F models. The G models showed remarkable survivability. The February Big Week operations proved strategic impact. Over 3,000 bomber sorties struck German aircraft production. Despite fierce Luftwaffe opposition, losses remained sustainable. The improved defensive capabilities had shifted the attrition balance decisively. Lieutenant General James Doolittle, commanding from January 1944, understood that modified B-17Gs could better defend themselves. He freed escort fighters to pursue German fighters aggressively rather than staying close to formations. This combination proved devastating to the Luftwaffe. March 4, 1944 saw the first American daylight raid on Berlin. 130 B-7 and B-24s struck the Nazi capital. The 95th Bomb Group, equipped with B-17Gs, lost only 3 aircraft while claiming 17 fighters destroyed, despite facing 200 German fighters. By spring 1944, the 8th Air Force could maintain sustained operations. The ability to mount 1,000 bomber raids with acceptable losses meant systematic destruction of German industrial capacity. The oil plan and transportation plan became viable because bombers could survive required missions. D-Day operations showcased the transformation. The 8th Air Force flew over 2,000 bomber sorties supporting the invasion. Despite intense opposition, only 26 bombers were lost from all causes. The B-17G had become a reliable weapons platform. By summer 1944, the Luftwaffe faced an impossible equation. American bombers were harder to kill, while production replaced losses immediately. The modification had contributed to a cycle where improved defenses meant more bombers survived, requiring more German fighters to attack, resulting in more German losses. The human dimension became clear in tour completion statistics. In early 1943, completing 25 missions seemed impossible. By mid-1944, crews routinely completed 35 mission tours. Survival probability had more than doubled. August 1944 brought validation from German technical intelligence. Their examination of a crashed B-17G noted that offset waist positions provided effective beam defense. Accumulated modifications had transformed the aircraft from vulnerable target to formidable opponent. Production continued relentlessly. Boeing's Plant 2 employed 44,000 workers producing 16 B-17Gs daily at peak. The ability to rapidly implement improvements created a weapons system that evolved faster than enemies could adapt. October 1944 brought another milestone when B-17Gs successfully engaged German jet fighters. Despite the Mi-262's speed advantage, waist gunners damaged several jets, proving improved conventional defenses remained relevant against revolutionary technology. The Christmas Eve mission of December 24, 1944 became the war's largest airstrike. 34 bombers struck western Germany. Despite massive scale and desperate resistance, including jets, proportional losses remained lower than small raids of early 1943. February 3, 1945, brought nearly 1,000 B-17s over Berlin. Despite everything Germany could muster, only 21 bombers were lost. What would have been catastrophic losses in 1943 was now acceptable attrition. The last B-17 rolled off Boeing's production line on April 13, 1945. Serial number 4485974 represented the culmination of combat-driven design evolution. April 25, 1945 marked the final bombing mission. B-17Gs attacked Czech arms factories without loss. The modifications had worked. Combat lessons had been applied. The investment in blood had paid dividends in victory. Post-war analysis by the United States Strategic Bombing Survey concluded that B-7 evolution, particularly defensive position improvements, contributed materially to achieving air superiority. Staggered waist positions combined with other improvements transformed aircraft survivability. Financial accounting revealed the modifications' value. $20 million in modifications prevented loss of 800 aircraft worth $190 million plus invaluable trained crews. Return on investment exceeded 10 to 1. The technical legacy extended beyond World War II. Every military aircraft since incorporated lessons from B-7 modifications, crew workspace, environmental protection, and fields off-fire became fundamental to aviation human factors engineering. Veterans consistently emphasized the modifications' importance. At reunions, waist gunners testified to the difference between F and G models. Simple changes like offset windows meant the difference between life and death. Today, 12 B-17Gs remain airworthy worldwide. Visitors notice the offset waist windows and learn how combat experience drove innovation, how industrial flexibility provided decisive advantage, how simple modifications produced profound results. General Karl Sparts provided the final assessment. The B-17G was designed not in factories but in combat. Every improvement came from crews who identified weaknesses through terrible experience. The staggered waist windows and other modifications transformed a flawed bomber into a war-winning weapon. The transformation demonstrates American capacity for rapid adaptation based on battlefield feedback. While Germany produced technically superior individual aircraft, they couldn't match America's ability to identify problems, develop solutions, and implement changes across thousands of production aircraft within months. The flying fortress that helped destroy the Third Reich was modified by collective experience of thousands of airmen, improved through sacrifice, and perfected through harsh selection of aerial combat. The offset waist windows saved countless lives and helped secure victory. Simple modifications, profound results, victory through adaptation. Daryl's story of how America won the air war over Europe